On Masters of Spin this morning, the cancel culture around the world. Broadcasters and streaming services are removing movies and TV shows from their catalogues over the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement.
So among them, 8-time Oscar-winning movie Gone with the Wind, the TV show Cops, and shows featuring blackened characters by Australian comedian Chris Lilly. It's dividing audiences, but the Prime Minister says that we've got much bigger problems and we should focus on the real issue.
What you're watching on television is your business. It's not going to create one job. Let's focus on where Australians are hurting today. And they really are hurting. And I will not be distracted.
Our masters this morning are advertising and marketing experts Adam Ferrier and Matthew Bywater. Gentlemen, good morning. Adam, to you first. The PM is angry about this. Is he right? Does this sanitising, I guess, of Hollywood, not really matter in the grand scheme of things, or is it an important symbol?
I think ScoMo has got it together. I think he's suddenly realising what it takes to lead, and I think he's seen this as an opportunity to show what he's not concerned about so he can show what he is concerned about. However, it is a massive issue, and there's a beautiful Picasso quote that art is a lie that reveals the truth. And the truth is that we live in a racist society. It used to be much worse and so on. And so if you start to whitewash all of that history, it's really, really concerning.
Yes, I guess the irony in all of this is that this reaction from streaming companies to pull these shows has actually created an enormous demand, Matthew, for these shows. People are finding it in other ways.
Exactly. Fawlty Towers has been reinstated by one streaming service, and we're finding people downloading it and buying these, whether it's DVDs or online. So they're hugely popular. And the Prime Minister's right. He says it's our choice. And what we'll see here is if this continues where companies start pulling these shows, we'll see a more fractured society. In a sense, we'll have more fractured supplies of content. So it won't go away. It'll just be more fractured and in some cases, more divisive.
Yeah, I think the focus needs to be on the content that's created in the future. And, I guess a lot of these shows will prove where we've come from. And I'd like to focus on making sure that these things are more equitable in the future. Can I ask you about another issue? Another element of the Black Lives Matter movement, the taking of the knee over the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. We've seen AFL players doing it. Footy restarted this week. There was some criticism from some circles, people talking about, the delineation between sport and politics. Should they come together? Adam, what are your thoughts?
I don't think it's a political issue. I think it's a human rights issue, and I think if people can express their human rights and their support for human rights wherever they may be, then good on them. And it's fantastic. And good on the AFL for getting involved. Good on the NRL for supporting the Indigenous players as well. It's wonderful to see.
Yeah, Matt, sports stars throughout the decades have wanted to show that they have a conscience as well. We've seen players take to one knee during protests in America's NFL. Indigenous players here in the NRL refused to sing the national anthem. That was subsequently not played. And perhaps most famously, the Black Rights Salute at the Olympics. And all of these competitions are now relaxing the rules. Even the International Olympics Committee says that it's open to allowing some form of protest during the Tokyo Games, some form of statement. What do you think, Matt?
Well, it's good to see, and it's good to see that they're doing it proactively rather than being reactively. Because one of the problems I find in this space is that there's not enough involvement. And there's a saying we like to use a lot: if you want to evolve society, you've got to involve society. And one of the problems is you have this antagonism all the time, and it puts people off. It creates a story other than the main part of the story. So more involvement is better for everyone.
Adam, the great hope of people who are wanting to see meaningful change, not just in America but in the world, is that these protests will move beyond, a passing, fad, if you like, that we will see lasting change. Is that your view? We're seeing some anger, the protesters on the streets, should they be doing it during COVID? The big question is whether or not we're going to see any meaningful and lasting change.
I think we're living in wonderful times where society is changing so quickly, and it's just like I think we're living in a real time of awakening. Whether it was Me Too a couple of years ago, now it's Black Lives Matter. It feels like people are taking on board. I think the people who are protesting for all of us, and I feel like the times are changing.
Wow, wouldn't it be amazing times that we live in if it actually does bring about meaningful change? Matthew and Adam, great to see you both, as always. Thank you.
That's the thing too. When you look at the Me Too movement, you know, people might stand back and say, listen, changing the culture and the attitudes towards particular races is a hard thing to change. But it was quite rapid with the Me Too movement. We came along in leaps and bounds in a couple of years. So I think there's a big chance that what we're seeing now will reshape the world.
Yes, and I suppose whether people think that people should be out protesting or not, the fact that people are doing it and risking their own health in the midst of a pandemic shows how strong people are feeling about wanting a change of some kind. All right, coming up on Weekend Sunrise, pandemic pets. The fears our furry friends won't be able to cope once we all go back to work. That's coming.